Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Bande Guru Param. Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Uh, Chapter 14. We have seen in the first verse, and Swamiji said that Krishna began this chapter talking to Arjuna without Arjuna initiating any conversation. Somehow Krishna believed that he needs to begin this conversation somehow. And he begins exalting this knowledge, saying again that this knowledge is the highest possible knowledge, the only knowledge that will somehow free the individual from desire for more experiences and more knowledge and new births and rebirths and the cycle, the endless cycle of samsara. So just this knowledge, the supreme knowledge, and as opposed to all other kinds of knowledge that never really delivers full satisfaction and peace and happiness, this knowledge is said to deliver that. And that's what Sampradaya or sacred scriptures say. And that is my experience and my trust that this is the only knowledge worth working for. Gaining this knowledge, one becomes wise, and the sages of all times have reached the supreme goal while still here, the concept of Jivan Mukta. No? So you get this understanding. And then after that, you are not desiring knowledge in the sense that people want to know more about philosophies, about science, about astronomies, and all kinds of scientific knowledge, including psychology and so on. And none of this knowledge are going to establish the happiness that we are searching for, because then the happiness is found in the recognition of our own nature, intrinsic nature, as Purna, one without a second consciousness, non-dual consciousness, the oneness of the Supreme Being. So unless one recognizes one's true nature as Purnatva, one is going to be lacking more knowledge, more experience, and is going to be subject to many more births and then deaths and rebirths and so on. The second verse, Krishna continues saying, resorting to this knowledge, I'm not yet recovered. I have sometimes some unexpected quote. Resorting to this knowledge, they have attained my same nature, the same nature as I myself. So Krishna is talking as Brahman. He's putting words in the mouths of Brahman. Brahman cannot say any words unless there is a Ishwara or an avatara or even a guru who can feel, have the liberty to put some words in the mouths of Brahman. Why? Because one who becomes knowledgeable through this knowledge has become wise, has recognized that there is only one Atma, and the Atma is by nature Purna, one without a second, fully satisfied, peaceful, and so on. So, and that's the nature of consciousness, that is the nature of Brahman. And then Ishvara can say that, speaking. Krishna can say that speaking as Brahman. The scripture says here and there those things, the script speaking from the standpoint of Brahman. Brahman would say, if he could say, and in fact it can say through the jivas, and especially through the yanis and the Ishvara also cannot speak. But in order for Ishvara to say something, he needs at least an incarnation, as an avatar or as, any other guru or yani, because fundamentally this knowledge is transmitted by Ishvara. Every time I start sharing this, I don't know where to begin from, but I know that Ishvara is going to feed me with words, inspiring words to express this, It's all coming from the same source. So, speaking as Brahman, they say that they are going to attain the same nature as mine. So there is only one nature. The nature is Nirguna Atma, Nirguna Self, free from gunas. It's Sat Chit, the only reality. Conscious existence, the only reality. That is the nature of everything, because fundamentally everything is a mixture of consciousness and matter and energies, Purusha plus Prakriti. So we have the Jivas, we have Ishvara, we have Brahman, we have the avatars, we have gurus, and then Ishvara takes the liberty with full confidence to speak as Brahman and say so. The people who get this knowledge, they attain the same nature as Brahman, by true nature, Nirguna, okay? Nirguna Atma, conscious existence without any property or attribute. And then once they have attained, and this attainment is attainment that is only possible through understanding. That's why we say that by knowledge, even Ramana, I was attracted to Ramana in the old days when I read him saying words which were somehow uh, referred as his words, a passage in which it says, that by knowledge and knowledge alone, the self can be realized. So he's going to attain that my nature by understanding the meaning of these final teachings of Vedanta, the Upanishads, which says that there is only one true nature, and is Nirguna Atma, Nirguna consciousness, Nirguna existence. Everything is just like that. The same way everything made out of gold is but gold. There is only one nature. It's not dual by nature. It's the same nature. And how someone is going to attain that? By understanding, because everything is but gold. If everything in the ocean is but water, there's nothing one can do to attain something which is already one's intrinsic nature, except understanding. So resorting to this knowledge, they are going to come to understand that there is only one nature. They are going to understand the final declaration, the final Mahavakya, Tattvamasi. You, Jiva, Atma. You are the same Atma of Ishvara, which is the same Atma of Brahman. There is only one Atma. Sameness, non-duality, needs to be understood. And this understanding, as we know, should grow to become a direct understanding rather than indirect understanding. And once this knowledge is attained by understanding knowledge, once this knowledge is understood, it's said that the individual, they are not going to be rebirths. They are not born even during creation, nor do they suffer death during dissolution. So we have the concept of pralaya, dissolution, and then origination of the universe. So at the time that the universe, explodes, bringing forth all the souls, that individual who understood its true nature is not going to appear again. Why? Because there is no desire for that anymore. If there is no desire, Ishvara cannot do anything. My Ishvara can project all these jivas for as long as the jivas say, yes, I dictate you, I want another birth. But not having any desire due to the understanding of one's already whole, full, and complete nature. Every desire comes from the lack or desire from fulfillment, completeness, or completude, I don't know how to, completion. We want to find completion, fulfillment. We want to find wholeness. We want to be satisfied. No? So I want to feel that there's nothing missing in my life anymore. I have achieved all my desires. I have realized everything. And there is no way one can realize everything unless one realizes this simple thing, I am of the nature of non-dual conscious existence, the only reality. So once we understood that, there is no desires left to produce another birth. And this individual does not die in his own life, much less during the dissolution, the so-called pralaya, because it also, again, it was just dissolved in consciousness as consciousness. What kind of consciousness? It was dissolved in Nirguna consciousness, in Nirguna Brahman. In Nirguna Brahman, there is no variation, differentiation, no difference, no divisions. If once you dissolve in Brahman as Brahman, there is only Brahman. There's no question of coming back or then leaving again and birth and rebirth. So that's the promise. The promise present in the Upanishads, present in the Gita is right now. And that's what motivates spiritual seekers, highly advanced such as ourselves, because when you really go down into these teachings, you don't find really much attraction out there in the spiritual world. Even Vedanta has to be sellable, let's say, to be appealing to the public, has to be more on the kindergarten level or psychological level, mix up with other things, to give a sense of intellectual stimulation, or as I'm getting something by understanding more different aspects of the Prakriti nature. So very rarely we find people interested in these final teachings of Vedanta. In the previous verse, it was pointed out that jnana is superior because it deals with the supreme knowledge, supreme goal, supreme purushartha, which is satya, which is reality. Who wants to know about reality? Once one understands that the duality in non-duality, in reality, there is non-duality. In non-duality, the experiencer is gone because there is no experiencer experienced. Not that the experiencer knowing entity disappears with self-knowledge, but it loses its desire to get continuation as an experiencer entity. Is exactly like a wave who discovers its nature to be the ocean and then further down understands its true nature to be water. So, and then it's reaching the rocks, somewhere there in the Mediterranean Sea. And then by reaching that, it gets afraid to lose its Namarupa. But it understood already. My higher nature is pure water, pure water. So that's the benefit. Removal of fear, of insecurity, of desires. If this is the greatest knowledge, the greatest palan, the greatest benefit, the benefit must be the greatest as well. If it is the supreme knowledge, benefit should be the supreme benefit. And it's referred to as Jiva Mukti and Videha Mukti. The next question is, what is Jiva Mukti and what is Videha Mukti? So as we know, Jiva Mukti is a concept which holds some more pragmatic value, because is freedom. Freedom from many things. Freedom from ignorance, freedom from suffering, freedom from attachment, dependence that causes suffering. And then it goes into a more philosophical, metaphysical dimension, which says it's freedom from future rebirths. And then people do not like very much that concept, but it's still understandable because a lot of people having a good time, as a Vedantine say, no, I want to reborn again. Why? Why not? But the scriptures say it makes sense to me that a fully cooked Jiva Mukti, let's say, I mean, all one's desires is cooked in the fire of Atmayanan. There is no desire for completion because you have got your nature as completion itself. So Jiva Mukti is a more practical and tangible concept which attracts to a certain point beyond which people do not buy much in the story of not being reborn again. But Videha Mukti is a more metaphysic concept because it says, so once you leave this body and then you become a Videha Mukti, meaning to say you're never going to get another birth, which is understood within the concept of Jiva Mukti. Jiva Mukti has a sense of freedom which is inherent, which is a byproduct of lack of desire for continuation in duality, If you're attracted by duality, all the opposite pairs that we experience producing pleasure and pain, favorable and unfavorable circumstance, gets us going as jivas. So the Jiva Mukta, it's easy to understand that as we further purify in the fire of this yanam, Atma yanam, our desires, they begin disappearing. It's a fact. And then it's easy from a tangible angle to see, maybe by the time I leave this body, there will be no desire left to produce another birth, because it's easy to understand that what brings us back is the desire for continuation. No? So, and then there is chance that I will never be reborn again, which goes into the concept of Videha Mukti. No? You are free from other rebirths. Krishna briefly defines them. By acquiring this knowledge, the Jnani have attained oneness with consciousness, with Brahman. They have also attained the same nature as Brahman, dropping the identification with Prakriti nature, no? The Jiva nature. So one attains the understanding of the Atma of this body-mind, or the Atma experience through this instrument, body-mind, sense complex. This Atma is identical to Ishvara Atma, which is identical to Brahma Atma, Paramatma. And then once one is established in that true, real identity, it's just like, okay, I'm going to exhaust my parameter here, but I have embraced my true nature, my real nature, as conscious existence, the only reality. So I have got the understanding of non-duality, of oneness. There is only Brahman, all is Brahman. Prakriti is just producing a lot of Namarupas, but as a appearing projection upon Brahman consciousness. So my nature is the nature of Brahman. Here he's putting as Ishvara. Ishvara and Brahman is the same thing, fundamentally. What do you mean by Ishvara or Brahman Ishvarupa? Ishvara has got Punativan, and these people enjoy the Punativan even while living. So the Yani start enjoying more and more a sense of freedom, which derives from the understanding of my true nature as being consciousness, always whole, full, and complete, the only reality. Huh? Are we on the same page? So the first indication of Jivamukti is a sense, an inner sense of self-sufficiency, an inner sense of confidence that nothing can touch me, an inner sense that I'm fully satisfied. I am consciousness, the very source of everything people love, such as security and satisfaction and peace. I am the very source of all of that. I'm fully satisfied. Nothing is missing here, so there's nothing to be added to what I am. Nothing can be subtracted from what I am. As Krishna said in the second chapter, Atmanam eva Atmanam tusta. Bhagwan is ever Puna. So the sage or the yani enjoys that sense of Purnatvam, of satisfaction, sense of completion. There's nothing anymore to be gained or achieved or becoming more better, The end of becoming is a big thing that some spiritual circles address. The fundamental problem as the problem of want to become something better, more prestigious, more famous, a better this, a better that, a better guru, a better disciple. So the Yani is over with all of that. He takes what Ishvara blesses him with without ever comparing. He enjoys its nature as Punatvam with full understanding of the nature of the creator, that which somehow has given us our body, mind, sense complex and our parabolic karma. The second feature, referring to Jivamukti, is Abhaya Swarupa, which is within the same concept of a sense of completion, fullness, satisfaction. Nothing is missing here. So if it's nothing is missing here, because I'm whole, full, and complete, there is no room for insecurity. So the desires, they start fading away more and more, a sense of Purnativa increasing, a sense that nothing can really affect me fundamentally. The fear of losing your Prakriti body start fading away more and more. And then the next feature is like there's no question of insecurity or fear. Jiva is full of insecurity. He feels insecure all the time. Therefore, the most fundamental Purushata for all human beings is the first one, searching for security. Why everybody searches so badly for security? Because everybody feels insecure. But is it true that everybody is insecure? Yes, under the spell of Maya, identified as the Prakriti body mind sense complex, everybody is going to experience a sense of vulnerability and insecurity. And everyone is going to run to something out there on which I can lean myself. I can just take support because it's inherent. Anything in Prakriti is by nature impermanent. Therefore, the Jiva very soon in early age begins noticing that people die, sometimes unexpectedly. And as that vision grows, the insecurity becomes more and more, and then people get sick. Sometimes they die prematurely out of the sicknesses. Insecurity is common to every and all human beings identified with its Prakriti body mind sense complex. If you know that you are the nature of Bhagwan, you are the nature of consciousness, you are the nature of Brahman, that sense of insecurity fades away. Therefore, Atmayana will remove the sense of insecurity as well. Freedom from insecurity means freedom from fear. Freedom from fear means freedom from desire, because fear is what propels the mind to produce desires, because the desires are mostly linked to the desire to remove the threat which causes fear. So I desire things to cover up my sense of insecurity, my fears. More money, more money. So if I have so much money, maybe I can live forever. Huh? Freedom from finitude, freedom from slavery. Bhagwan is called Swami. Swami means what? The one who is the master of everything. And samsara is called Britya Dasa, a slave. The Anyani, samsari, is bound to people, place, things, and events. It gets attached to everything that gives it a sense of satisfaction and security or pleasure. So, what is to be a slave as a good samsari? Means that you depend not only on God, but depend on anything around you that somehow gives you a sense of relative security. And nobody's happy living in such a level of dependence. Therefore, the definition of moksha is freedom from dependence. Is the nature of Bhagwan is freedom and independence is the only principle which does not depend upon other principles. For as long as we depend, we are bound, we are slave. Slave of my circumstance, my life situation. I depend on things being favorable to my desires, my likes and dislikes. The Jnani, once well established in this knowledge in regard to its Svarupa, Ishvara Svarupa means Jnani also becomes a Swami. That's the link there. It was the first time I read that, the meaning of Swami, because usually translated as master of yourself. But here Swami suggests that Swami means Bhagwan. Bhagwan is called the Swami. Swami means total mastery, total freedom, total independence. So let's imagine the possibility to live free from any of these things that somehow we attach to, and we carry those effort to hold on to people, things, and situations, and life becomes a burden. So once we attain our Svarupa nature, the Jnani could also be called Swami. Although Swami goes more to the sannyas tradition, from what I understand. So the Jnani is no longer slave dependable on one's karma palan. He takes the karma, knowing perfectly well that the karma belongs to the body-mind, but the Jnani, once well established in its true nature as Satchitananda Brahman, leaves to the body-mind what belongs to its Prakriti nature, to Ishvara, and as if witnessing all events of life, because life is hence the same for all Purusha or all Prakriti configurations of Maya. So with older age, we start having more illnesses and diseases. The body becomes more weak. The mind becomes weaker. And then things only go down from that point on. I begin having a taste of it. So just imagine after age 85, so just seeing the body mind going down. And if you depend on your youth to feel satisfied and happy, just imagine. That's why Swamiji, I heard Swamiji say long ago, and I love to repeat it. It requires tremendous maturity to go through old age, because it brings illnesses and pain and death. So the Jnani is a master of his or her situation. And a master never has any regret over what happened in the past and has never no anxiety in regard to the future. This is very strong. Very few people understand that. How the mind of Vayani works with never looking back to take shame or pride upon anything that happened in the past, and much less anticipating with anxiety a desired future. So all of these are indications. They are indicated by the word sadhamyam, which is another word for jiva mukti, or indicates the condition of a jiva mukti. So even while living, the jiva mukta enjoys the glories which belongs to Satchitananda Brahman's her own very intrinsic nature. Everything belongs to the glory of Brahman, the glory of the Lord. There is no sense of possession, of ownership. Ahamkara, my makara. My mind, my this, my that, my belongs, because we get attached to our belongs, our material belongs, property, house, and children, and everything. And with that approach, you just imagine the suffering, the psychological suffering, the mind of the Jnani, which is big time attached to one's possessions. And the body is the most intimate possession. If you have a sense of mamakara, a possession to things of the Prakriti nature, we have no problem to leave behind all our possessions and go into deep sleep every night. Why? because we are so sure that in the morning our possessions come back as I become the awaker again. And the scripture say, yes, now once you leave your body, you're going to lose all your possessions. Your possessions are gone. They are part of the dream. If you want more assets, more material accomplishment, you have to work for it again in the next birth, that life. Therefore, everybody is afraid because there is huge attachment and dependence upon the things we love, the things that gives us a sense of relative security and peace, which begins with our health, physical body, which becomes unhealth over the decades. Then what happens after that? After death, the Jnani attains a status of Videhamukti. What do you mean by Videhamukti? It's freedom from the cycle of birth, life, old age, disease, and death, and rebirth. So Videhamukta is one who is going to be free. This is a second promise Vedanta presents all of us. First, he says you're gonna feel really cool and good while still living here. Okay, you understand your true nature. You're not going to feel bound by things and afraid of losing and afraid of that and full of desires, stress your mind, full of demands. I want this, I don't want that. So you're going to experience a non-problematic mind that is very cool. But then the second promise is even more radical. You are not going to come back again. And then people say, oh no, I don't like that part of Vedanta. Because there is still attachment to this duality. Pura Punarapi Janamam Purana Maranam cycle. So the Jiva Mukti, once it leaves the physical body, the Prakriti body, they are going to be free from a next round. Next round, new birth, youth, middle age, old age, disease and death, attachments, desires, fears. So who wants to live that again and again? Some people want, hoping that there is a higher dimension in which the duality may be more favorable for my enjoyments. But this is samsara. The desire that something within duality can bring me great satisfaction. And people sell those ideas, and people buy into those ideas as well, due to lack of qualification to really grow with Vedanta. Videhamukti is defined in the second line. They are not born again as miserable individuals, and therefore means in the next origination of the universe, they are not created again with the universe. It is gone. They do not need to be manifest again because the mind is not asking for it anymore. It's just got dissolved in the ocean of consciousness as consciousness, which is not an experiencing, knowing entity, but the very source of conscious existence. Therefore, they do not come to grieve again. Mortality, they are not to celebrate the birth of a new child. They do not grieve. Even at the time of pralaya, they are not afraid. They are not afflicted with the perspective of pain and death. In short, they are free from janama marana cycle. The freedom from rebirth is referred to as videhamukti. Therefore, Arjuna, if you want to enjoy this Jiva Mukti and also enjoy the benefit of not having to come back again, concentrate on this Atmayanan and make sure that you, how you say, empty yourself of all sorts of desires to come back. Because Ishvara is a perfect system. If Ishvara detects that there are some desires for higher births, better conditions and so on, it's a facilitator, as Ramji used to say. It's going to provide us with the possibility to fulfill our desires until we desire for the greatest, until we desire the supreme freedom. The next verse, the great Prakriti is my womb. Krishna speaking in the name of Brahman. The great Prakriti is my womb. Is a very nice analogy. And I place the seed in my womb. So I have Maya, Prakriti is such as my womb. There is a seed for the creation. I allow that to be planted by my power, the so-called Maya. And from that seed originates all beings, or Arjuna. So now we are going to the concept of Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is kind of a woman with a womb, how do you say? Womb, no? Yeah. And just imagine what a kind of a woman to have a womb that gives birth to the entire creation. And all of that from a single seed, compressed seed of the entire cosmos is compressed in that single seed, the seed of the universe. And then the origination of all things and beings emerge, or Arjuna. So he was emphasized the Atmayanan as the greatest supreme knowledge, the one only knowledge that will free the jiva from its afflictions. Is the only liberating knowledge. Having introduced the subject matter now in these two verses, the third and the fourth Krishna is going to talk about creation. He has dealt with in the 13th chapter, saying, yes, he spoke about Purusha and Prakriti. As the base, such as a gold bar has some inclusions to it. It's not 100% gold. So there are some other chemical elements we call impurities. So we have Purusha. Within Purusha, there are some impurities, so to speak, which is Prakriti. And then everything made out of the combination of Purusha and Prakriti is going to have the same composition, the same way every ornament made of a certain bar of gold, made out of gold plus certain other elements, is going to have the same composition. So it goes to say that not only Ishvara is a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. What kind of Prakriti? Sattvaguna. But also Jiva is a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. The only difference between Jiva and the Ishvara has very little Rajaguna and Tamaguna into its configuration, whereas the Jiva has a lot of Tamaguna and Rajaguna and a little bit of Sattvaguna, just enough for us to understand our true nature. Those are the two principles, Purusha and Prakriti. And then if we remember the last teaching, he said that there is something very common about these two principles. And what's common is that they are both beginningless, anadi. Mm. This is a very nice concept. Shwara, Jiva, Jagata is anadi. It has always existed. It's connected to the concept of the eternal Jiva. Has always been there, manifest, only manifest as a potential latent seed, but it's there. So once the seed gets into the womb of Purusha, and then Ishvara Jiva Jagata emerges again and again. Therefore, Purusha and Prakriti are both Anadi. And we have seen that although they have this common feature, they have uncommon features as well. One is Chetana, the other is a Chetana. Purusha is the only source of consciousness or sentience. Prakriti is insentient, achetana, or inert. There is no possibility for it to become self-conscious or conscious of its environment. Only jivas can be conscious of its environment, and some jivas can be self-conscious, means that I'm conscious of my environment and I'm conscious that I'm all conscious of my environment. So that is the difference. Prakriti is a chetana, inert principle. Purusha is chetana. Purusha is nirguna without any attributes, properties, qualities, features, or characteristics. Prakriti is saguna. Once the gunas come into place, and then once Ishvara begins grossifying those energies to create the subtle elements and then the physical, chemical elements, and then we have infinite numbers of configurations, and they all made out original from the trigunas, but they become so colorful because of the explosion occurring within these configurations of the gunas, producing explosion of attributes, properties, and all kinds of features. It's unbelievable. It's such a magical, intelligent explosion. And no wonder we get so attracted to the Prakriti world, because it's so diverse. There are so many, different ways to experience it and touch and lick it and smell it, eat it, discovering the properties of things, the scientific mind, what could be used for this and that, what kind of properties and so on. It's fascinating for the extroverted mind. The saguna nature of Prakriti makes it very attractive to the human mind, because the five senses, they are extroverted towards Prakriti. They are not introverted. Introvert towards Purusha. So it's a huge effort to take the mind and make it introvert towards Purusha. No, it's out there going. No wonder we get caught up and bound and enslaved by producing so many ragged Vaishyas. Prakriti is Saguna Tattva. Purusha is Nirguna Tattva. And the other one is that one is Nivikara, the other is Savikara. We know that everything which is made out of Prakriti is in a flux of modification. Being the most fundamental modification, its appearance, because it comes from the ocean of Prakriti and then appears a certain composition, and then it keeps changing, declining, and then disappears as the other more radical change. So it is savikara, it's in a flux of continuous change. Whereas Brahman is nirguna and nirvikara. One is satya, the other is mithya. That is the fourth difference. One is real and the other is just a superimposition upon what is real. And what it means to be real and unreal, to be satya, to be mithya. So satya is that which enjoys a free and independent nature, existence. And then the projection upon the screen of consciousness depends on consciousness. The same way the projection of those images project on the screen on the cinema. In the cinema, they depend on the screen. The screen is free and independent from its projections, but not the other way around. So what is real? Real is that which is always ever present, enjoy an independent, free existence of its own. Prakriti is totally dependable. And it depends in every sense on Satchitananda Brahman. This is mithya. It does exist. It's defined by its attributes. It's in a flux of continuous modification. And it enjoys a borrowed, so to speak, existence, dependent existence, because without consciousness, there is no Prakriti. Nirguna, Nirvikara, Satya, Chetana Tattva is Purusha, Saguna, Savikara, Mithya, Achetana Tattva is Prakriti. And we have both of these natures we see in ourselves. Our divine nature as conscious existence or God or Purusha, our Brahma nature. And we have our Prakriti nature. Unfortunately, the human mind identifies with this Prakriti nature. Why? Because the mind is not subtle enough so that it can identify with its subtle, most subtle nature as the spirit, as consciousness, as Purusha. It's all a question of mental qualification. Mental has to be subtle, spiritualized enough so that it can recognize the most subtle and make a resolve and say, no, I refuse attributing reality to my Prakriti nature. It's not going to free me. It's going to create more trouble than anything. And now that I understood, I just claim and embrace my nature as pure Purusha. So the whole universe, going back to the concept of creation, it comes from this wedding. Purusha and Prakriti, they marry together and it caused the creation. If you have only Purusha, there is no creation. If you have only Maya or Prakriti, there is no creation. You have both together, the same way we need a man and a woman to produce a child. This mixture, fundamentally, seen from a certain perspective of the teachings, context, is called Ishvara. Ishvara is called a mixture of Purusha and Sattvaguna, which is Prakriti. We call Ishvara is the creator, the supreme knowledge, supreme intelligence that knows how to hold this universe, which is but pure knowledge, having its laws and principles designed in such a way and providing us with the law of karma, which is the most important, so that we can understand that there is a connection between our attitudes, words, and deeds and the results we reap later on. Ishvara is neither pure Purusha nor pure Prakriti, but a mixture of both, and Prakriti here means basically Sattva Guna. So we have seen in the previous chapter Purusha compared to the father principle and Prakriti, the mother principle. And it is understandable, it's a very nice example, analogy, because the mother principle, only the mother principle can give birth to children. The father cannot. It can just offer a small contribution. But in any case, it's not a question of seeing which one is superior, but it's a nice analogy. Female and male, it's a symbol, it's an analogy, an example. Don't go crazy about that and don't become fixate with the gender here. But remember that Purusha is Chetana and Prakriti is a Chetana, and then the women may feel a little bit offended, you know. So it's just an example. But once we have this mixture, we have the creation, the potential for creation. Krishna wants to point out if the Purusha and Prakriti, father and mother, and that two inseparable father and mother, like what? Like Shiva and Parvati, inseparable principles, like Vishnu and Lakshmi, another symbol to illustrate this mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. Who is occupying Vishnu's chest? Like Brahma and Sarasvati. And then he goes into more symbolism. Put it together, it's called Ishvara. You may call Adharnarishvarana, the cause of the creation. You have to have both. You have to have both together, and that is the cause of the creation. So, who caused the creation? Purusha, consciousness is the cause of the universe? No, although here and there we may say is the causeless cause is Purusha. Because without consciousness, without Purusha, there is no creation. But then we can come back and say, no, we cannot say that Purusha is the causeless cause of the universe, because without Prakriti, consciousness cannot create anything. Therefore, we come back and say, yes, both together is the cause of creation. In other words, Ishvara is the cause of creation because it has Sattva Guna as its Prakriti nature, which is the supreme knowledge, full knowledge, and has all the gunas to be converted into the elements to project and sustain this apparent order. Okay, he keeps going here, talking about the comparison with a man and a woman and the children being born. Sometimes the child is more like the mother. Some notes of the mother, the father. Therefore, every individual is a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. Ura Tattva Saguna Savikara Michya Chetana Prakriti Tattva. If I do not understand my composition very clear, I will not know how to handle myself properly. So he is emphasized here that understanding creation from the standpoint of Vedanta is important because I need to understand more clearly my composition. That I'm a mixture of spirit and matter. Matter, technically, we call Prakriti. And this Prakriti is based on the three energies, the three so-called gunas. Out of the gunas, and then there is an explosion of elements. Elements grossify and so on. So we have these three gunas operating in our five koshas and our three bodies all the time. So the body may be under the influence of more sattva guna, more rajoguna, more tamoguna, and we can feel the difference. The mind, which is the most sattvic, the most the most body, mind, the subtle body, it is the subtle body in which sattva is predominant, but it has some rajoguna and tamoguna as well. We can see when the mind is more tamasic or more rajasic or more sattvic. The same way our pranas, sometimes they are more rajasic, sometimes more tamasic, sometimes more sattvic. So we need to understand our composition so that we can understand how to handle my Prakriti nature. And that from there comes the idea of handling or managing my gunas. So it's important to know that we can somehow influence our composition, which fundamentally is based on the three gunas. But it's a lifetime project to convert tamaguna into rajoguna, rajoguna into more sattva guna, yet remaining ground, participate in this world, making the best of it, learning, growing, purifying, refining, turning the body-mind into a more sattvic instrument so that we can get the supreme knowledge before we leave this world. Okay, my friends, I'm going to go. I feel cold and tired, and we meet tomorrow again. Are we good for tomorrow? Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Om Ishwara Namaste. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Islander. Great satsang.
Thank you.
Okay.
I enjoyed it myself as well.